Hello, this is Nectar and welcome to my newest Pet of Exile video. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about CYCLONE SLAYER, the new LEAGUESTART build that I put up. This build has 2.9, almost 3 million DPS, EOE reuse of 3.3 meters, it has a life cost, doesn't have a mana cost, it has great defensive layers, it has 4.5k life, it has 30 rage, it has okay recovery, it has 12,000 evasion, it has almost 20,000 armor, 100% submission chance, and also great resistances with 30% chaos res and 112% increased movement speed. So this build is using CYCLONE, of course. This isn't the CYCLONE of Tumult build, this is a different kind of build entirely. So we are using CYCLONE, we are using Pulverize as our first support. This is a good damage and also a lot of increased area of effect. We need area of effect to increase our EOE reuse of our CYCLONE, so Pulverize is great. We have Endurance Charge of melee stun. This is good damage and also a great way to sustain and get Endurance Charges. We have Void Manipulation. This is a great damage support. We also have Infused Channeling. Infused Channeling is great damage and also a great defensive layer. This reduces the hit damage that we take while we are channeling, and we are almost always channeling. And in the last spot, there are 3 support gems that we can use. That's melee physical damage, added chaos damage, and Withering Touch. All 3 are good. You can use whichever one of these, and you can also use the awakened support gems instead of these normal skill gems, but I've put up the normal skill gems for the LEAGUESTART scenario. In body armor we have Withering Step. Withering Step is a special skill with CYCLONE. So let me just read what Withering Step is and then explain how it works with CYCLONE. Grants elusive and a buff that grants phasing. While you have this buff, monsters that enter an area around you will be withered. Using a skill or losing the elusive buff ends the skill's effect. Shares a cooldown with other blink skills. Cannot be used while already elusive. So Withering Step gives us elusive, gives us phasing, and also applies a withered debuff to the nearby enemies. And since we are cycloning, we are also always near our enemies and we are not at range. So we are applying a lot of wither debuffs to the enemies when we are near them. The great thing about Withering Step is that when you are cycloning, you can automate the Withering Step and it will keep applying wither debuffs as you are cycloning alone. So this doesn't stop when you're cycloning, it keeps going, so you apply wither debuffs to all the enemies that you come near to. And we can link this with automation, life tap, and enhance to increase its effectiveness. So this applies 9 wither debuffs, and our main skill, CYCLONE, applies a debuff as well. And let me explain how it's applied. So when we come to items, we have this large cluster, and in the cluster we have Overwhelming Malice. You don't need to have a Chaos large cluster to get this, you can also get it from a medium cluster with crit. Overwhelming Malice is 10% chance to gain Unholy Might for 4 seconds on critical strike. So we are attacking 10 times per second, that's our attack rate, times our crit chance is 8.16, so that's times 0.8. So that means we are critically striking 8 times every second, that's times 4. We are critically striking 32 times every 4 seconds. And when you apply the 10% chance times 1, so that means we have Unholy Might all the time, because this is above 1. So this is the reason that we are using Overwhelming Malice, in order to get our physical damage converted into chaos damage and use Withering Step to get elusive, phasing, and also a lot of withered debuffs to buff our damage. When you go into configuration, you see that we have 13 stacks of withered, and with that we have 2.9 million DPS, and when you remove that it goes down to 1.6 million. So this is basically doubling our damage. So that's the reason we are using Fizz to Chaos. We are using Immortal Call, that's because we have Endurance Charge of melee stun linked to CYCLONE, and that's just going to make us gain a lot of endurance charges very quickly. So we can use Immortal Call on automation in order to get a lot of Immortal Call buffs, and we are going to replenish our endurance charges very quickly because CYCLONE is linked to endurance charge on melee stun. We also have Assassin's Mark on our boots, that's linked to Mark on hit and life tap. And we also have Blood Rage here. We are using Blood Rage to gain a lot of attack speed and generate frenzy charges. And we are using Assassin's Mark to get a lot of crit chance and crit multi and to gain a lot of power charges. And in our helmet, we are using Leap Slam, faster attacks, life tap, and endurance charge and melee stun. You can use Leap Slam, faster attacks, and life tap. The fourth slot is optional, but I put this here in order to get some more endurance charges while we are leap slamming around. And in our gloves, we have the auras, that's Purity of Elements and Determination. We need Purity of Elements to cap our resistances and also get immunity to all of the elemental ailments. And we need Determination in order to get armor for physical mitigation. I didn't want to put 2 more gems here. That's just a flexible point of the build. You can use any skill gem you want. You can get a golem, you can get a portal, anything you want. I also left the body armor with just 5 links. You can put a 6th link here in order to get something else. That's just optional. When we get to the end game, you can use Enlighten here with Precision in order to get more accuracy and crit chance. But for the league start, I didn't want to do that, and I left this like this here. And if you end up with more life or you want to sacrifice some life in order to get more damage, you can use Precision with Arrogance in order to get more crit chance and more accuracy. But that's not what I'm willing to do at the league start, so let's remove these. So this is the skill setup on the character, so let's go through the items then. Our weapon is hitless. The reason we are going hitless is finding a 6th link hitless is going to be very easy, because this is not a really rare weapon and nobody really uses hitless. So this has socketed gems that are supported by a level 1 life tap. That's the reason we are having life cost instead of mana cost on our Cyclone. We have physical damage added, we have crit chance, so this weapon's crit chance is actually 7.25, which is pretty high. We also have enemies attack reflect 100 physical damage to you. We are not really affected by this because we have Bane of Legends, and the second line here says cannot take reflected physical damage, so that doesn't really affect us. And this says +2 to weapon range. That's the same as +0.2 to weapon melee strike range. So those are the same things. And our helmet is Abyssus. I chose Abyssus because it gives a lot of attributes and a lot of damage and a lot of critical strike multiplier. This also, of course, gives increased physical damage taken, but the damage is so overwhelming that we can actually manage the physical damage taken from this helmet. Our body armor is a rare body armor with armor and evasion hybrid base. This has life and resistances, nothing fancy, no implicits, nothing. I just added some basic gear so that everyone can get this. Gloves, we have suppression, life and resistances. You don't really need to have suppression on the gear. You can get suppression from other places like the passive tree, but if you can get some suppression on the gear, that's best. Body armor as well. And the boots are the same, life, movement speed, and resist and suppression. So you don't have to get all of these same stats on the items. You can get these props from other places as well. And our amulet is Carnage Heart. It has a lot of attributes. It has all elemental resistances, has leech, has damage while leeching, and has increased life leech per second, which is not something I'm going to go through. We also allocate Frenetic, which I'm going to show you in the passive tree. And our rings are Exile's Temptation. These are great for a Chaos build because these give all attributes, Chaos damage to attacks, crit multi, armor, evasion, life, all elemental resistances, and attack speed. We want the quality to be on attack modifiers because it buffs the Chaos damage to attacks and also attack speed. So we are using 2 of these. We also have a belt, Siege Invite, life and resistances, very simple. And the Abyssal Jewel is accuracy with life because we don't really have access to accuracy through precision, so we need accuracy from gear, and the Jewel is the perfect place to get it. Our flasks are pretty simple. Increased effect, Diamond Flask with crit chance, Granite Flask with armor, Jade Flask with evasion, Silver Flask with curses, and that's just optional. You can get whatever suffix you want on this flask, and Quicksilver Flask with movement speed. And when it comes to jewels, the large cluster is with Overwhelming Malice. The other 2 points are not that important because we really need Overwhelming Malice at the start. But if you can get Green Mode, which is just 10% extra damage, and Wicked Pole is also good with 30% increased chaos damage. All the rare jewels are the same. I just put 1 crit multi and 1 life. If you can get more crit multi or attack speed, that's just going to be better. These are just some simple items that I put up to show off the build in a proper way. So these are our items, and when we get to the tree is actually very simple. We want to get, we are getting Masterful Form, so we want to get all the frenzy charges that we can. So we are taking into Savagery and also Fervor, but we are not going all the way to Frenetic. We are just going to allocate this. It's going to need Silver, Azure, so it's pretty easy. And with that, we are going to have 7 frenzy charges and 7 endurance charges, which is great. We have Impact. Impact is accuracy, melee strike range, EOE, and more damage based on proximity. That's great. We have more life leech from here and reduced damage taken while leeching. Great. And also 10% more damage, 20% more damage to unique enemies, and cannot take reflected physical damage, which enables us to use Hiltless. Otherwise, we can't use Hiltless. So that's the tree. We tech into all the melee strike range with swords and without swords, basically, from here as well. So we get a lot of EOE reduce on our Cyclone. And other than that, we tech into 100% chance to spell suppression, some movement speed, crit multi, life, damage, and all the other good stuff. And we get Culling Strike from here. We have some defensive notes here. This is just pure damage. We are getting Rage on Hit from here. And all the accuracy nodes here cap our hit chance to 100%. So that's level 95, and when you look at the configuration, and this is set to Guardian Pinnacle Boss, so you know that I'm not bullshitting you. And this is just the main setup. We have Fortify, let me explain that as well. We have this node. This gives melee hits which stun have 5% chance to fortify, and unless you are using cold damage that crit that can freeze, you can hit Fortify on any melee hit. So just a quick disclaimer, I prepared this build guide for myself, not for other people. I'm just sharing this so that other people can see it and maybe do it themselves, but I'm not telling you that this is a build guide, you can do this or whatever. I haven't tried this in a League Start scenario before, so this is purely technical and theoretical. On paper it looks good. I'm hoping that it's gonna look good in the game as well. And when you go into the notes, you can see my notes about leveling. I'm going to use Spectral Throw, Chance to Bleed, and Volley until level 12. And then I'm going to use Sunder, Ruthless, and Maim. And from level 18, I'm going to use Sunder, Chance to Bleed, Cruelty, and if you have Yellow Gem, Close Combat. If you have Red, Maim. And then at level 38, Sunder, Fist of War, Chance to Bleed, and Cruelty. And we are going to use Pride as our aura, Seismic Cry with Urgent Orders, Frost Blink, and Leap Slam with faster attacks. So this is the build. And please, if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. I'm really working hard to get my channel going. I'll see you on the event. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned.